So one of the things that I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, especially since we went to quarantine, is augmented reality. I think it's fascinating. I think based on the amount of time that we spent on Zoom the last 12 months, I 100% believe it's going to be the next step. And the truth is, I don't know much about it. So I'm extremely excited to have someone who is the founder of ThreeKit and someone who knows augmented reality really well and made a business out of it. Ben Houston, the co-founder of ThreeKit. Ben, welcome.
Thanks, Benny. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great name, by the way. So it makes it easier for me. But Ben, if you can do me a favor and just introduce yourself and ThreeKit.
Yeah, Ben Houston founded ThreeKit now in 2005, so about 16 years ago. We've had a sort of an interesting history. We actually started doing software for the VFX industry. We actually helped out directly on the Harry Potter series. Our stuff was also purchased by a lot of large companies such as Industrial Light and Magic, and then used on tons of films, Star Wars, the Avengers series. From there, we actually transitioned to doing graphics on the web. And then we were pulled into this space called 3D configuration. That's when you can basically use this 3D technology to visualize your products and configure them and see them on a web page. And then from there, we started getting pulled into the augmented reality market, because once we're visualizing your product in 3D, having it display in augmented reality is quite simple. And once we moved into this product visualization and augmented reality, our company has really taken off. I would say it got really good product market fit. And then since 2018, we've brought in over 30 million in investment to help grow the company to where we are today.
That's awesome. Congrats. So I told you before, like I get really excited about augmented reality, but what I realized that a lot of people don't even know what augmented reality is. They know what virtual reality is, but they don't know what augmented reality is. Can you define augmented reality in the simplest terms so that people could understand what it is?
Yeah, augmented reality is like the term that no one understands. It's really only used that by people in the industry, because older people may not have even seen it before. And then younger people actually refer to it as filters. So augmented reality is very much what you see in Snapchat or Instagram, when you can put like a virtual face or like a hat or glasses on your face. What it's doing, tracking some part of a video feed, and then figuring out where various features are, and then you can put 3D graphics on top of it. In the way, it's called augmenting reality. So putting computer graphics on top of basically reality. It's used a lot in the e-commerce space for things like furniture. So we work with Crate & Barrel, a local Chicago firm, and we help them display their furniture in augmented reality. That means that you can go to their website, go to a product page, you can click view in your home. What it does is it loads the 3D model of the furniture you're about to buy, and then it lets you place that using your cell phone. You can then place that to a corner of your room or someplace in your room, and you can put that furniture down. You can see it live in your room. So now you can see if those dimensions fit and whether that fabric actually looks good with their surrounding decor.
And how does you explained it to me before, and I still can't really explain it, but I understand it. But how does the camera figure out like how the size and like the width and length and all that of the furniture to your room?
So we digitize people's products. So we help turn their products into 3D. We can bring that in from a number of different sources, but when we visualize or we represent it in 3D, we represent it with its actual dimensions. So we know the true dimensions of the furniture. Then the trick is to use algorithms that's like computer programs that can analyze that video feed to figure out where the floor is, or where your face is, or where your hand is, because we do hand try on as well. And then you superimpose that 3D graphics with the right size on the hand or the floor. So basically, we use machine learning algorithms to identify the physical objects in your space. And we've identified them at the real world size so that we can augment them with real world objects.
Got it. So with everything that happened with COVID, and obviously, people weren't going into stores before for the last 12 months. I personally, I'm not a fan of going into stores just in general, but now I don't even have any desire to go into them. So how is this going to change the shopping experience or the consumer experience moving forward, augmented reality?
Yeah, I think it is a proven fact that if someone tries out the augmented reality on your product page, they're more likely to buy that product. They're also less likely to return that product because they're actually trying out its real dimensions. It's not going to be too big for them or too small. They know what they're getting. So not only does it increase sales, but it decreases returns. So that's huge. And that's like whether you just have a website or you also have an in-store experience. In the future, augmented reality experiences are going to get even richer. You're going to be able to put in multiple pieces of furniture around. You're going to be able to invite your significant other to also be sharing that augmented reality experience on their phone. And then they can change all the arrangement to get it to their likes. Maybe a virtual salesperson might even appear and go, hey, would you like some help? And they look at your living room with the furniture you've picked out, and maybe they have some design experience. They can start improving your layout to maybe even better match your room. And so it's quite likely through augmented reality and the technology that ThreeKit provides, it's going to start exceeding the in-store experience. It's like, why would I go into the store when I could actually see what the furniture is going to look like in my room? I don't have to describe that to the salesperson and then come with measurements. It just works. So I do think with augmented reality, with technology, and with ThreeKit's technology, it is going to exceed the in-store experience. And it's going to reduce costs for all those retailers using it too, because stores are very expensive to maintain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I live right by the Mag Mile part of downtown Chicago. And I mean, the stores right now, if I go to any of them, there's lines around the block, because they literally have like a certain capacity in. And I look at those lines and I'm like, but those are mostly tourists that want to see the Mag Mile shops. But the people that live in Chicago that I know, nobody wants to go into these stores anymore. So, but you bought up furniture, but what about other things? Like, for example, clothes. I don't even like going into stores for clothes. But at the same time, I also know with clothes, especially, you have to try them on and see if they fit, right? So I get going into stores, but how do you think AR would affect like the clothing industry?
Yes. So there's a number of different industries. Furniture is one. Another one is jewelry. Jewelry, hand try on works really well. So you can put the rings on your fingers. You can see how big that ring's going to look relative to the rest of your hand, because people have different sized hands, just like with clothing.
Yeah.
And then there's clothing. So we're doing research in that area. You can basically figure out people's body shapes, either from a number of different measurements or measurements in weight. You can also take photos and it can infer like your body size from that. We already digitize people's clothing, and we're working with some simulation to be able to simulate that clothing on those body shapes to tell you how it actually fits on your body. So it is quite likely that in the future, you'll be able to try on this clothes virtually, either on an avatar or possibly even on yourself. One of the problems in the clothing space is that returns are incredibly high, especially for women's clothing. It's around 40%. And the reason why it's so high is a combination of two things. One, it may not fit, like the sizing is wrong. But the second reason, and this is a harder one, it may technically fit, but it doesn't look flattering. And for that one, you really can't just use the sizing. You actually have to put that on either yourself or some virtual representation of yourself to see how it would drape sort of over your body. And women's clothing is the hardest because there's so many measurements. Men's clothing is actually a lot easier. Men's body shapes are much more similar than women's. So yeah, I think that's a future challenge that's coming down the road, but it should dramatically change that industry. And imagine this, you'll be able to try on every type of clothing, combine it with any other piece of clothing virtually, change its color, and possibly once you put it on, maybe that clothing could even see that it's not fitting and it starts changing the size until one fits. So it'll be much more convenient than actually trying on that clothing in a store. So again, I do think the augmented reality future is going to greatly exceed the in-store shopping experience.
That's so fascinating. I hate going into stores, waiting for fitting room, trying it on, and then realize. So I usually end up just buying things, ordering things, and then just returning it if it doesn't fit.
Brutal cost. So that increases the cost throughout the whole supply chain, right?
Right.
What even to do with those returns? Another really cool thing that's likely going to happen is you're going to have a personal inventory of digital twins of all your purchases. Imagine with clothing, every piece of clothing you buy, you want to have a digital representation of it. So when you go to buy another piece of clothing, it can go, hey, I notice you have this blue shirt that you're looking at would go really well with these 4 other pants that you already have. And this is what you'd look like in them. And it would show you wearing your existing clothing with the new outfit. And it might say though, but if you switch to this red one, it actually goes with 8 of your pieces of clothing. And if you have digital representations of all of your clothing, you can actually have a style assistant, a virtual one in the morning. You go, I have a business casual meeting. What should I wear? And it goes, hey, this would look nice. or I have a formal event or a more formal event. It says this is probably what you should wear. And so then it could actually show you, basically, you could preview, here's the 4 different looks, then you could pick those out. You wouldn't have to try on anything. So that's also enabled through ThreeKit's technology of digitizing your clothing. We can then have those personal inventories that can help with recommending new stuff or just what you're going to wear that day.
That's unreal and so cool. I mean, just you hearing you say that out loud. Okay, so I guess the next question. So we talked about furniture, clothes, and this is why I was so interested in augmented reality, because I feel like with Zoom, you're seeing each other on 2 different screens and whatnot. And I think virtual reality, and we talked about this before, I think the whole helmet thing and all that, it's not really, ideal for people, especially for work. My thought was augmented reality is going to basically be the next step from Zoom, because I think if you can, instead of the couch that you're sitting in your room, if you can actually see, if I could see you sitting right in front of my desk and we're talking to each other like this, I feel like that would be unreal. But I know you and I talked about this last time. I would love to hear your perspective on that. How far are we from that? Is that even possible? And what's it going to take to get to that point?
So Facebook has some virtual reality for conferencing. I have never heard of anyone actually using it for real. I think the problem is there's just not enough devices around. So like you can't use it in a work setting. It's also not supported by Zoom. I do think that once Zoom supports an augmented reality or virtual reality interface, I wouldn't be surprised, and it actually works well, then you'll see adoption. But we sort of have that chicken or the egg that the software nor the hardware is widely available. Will it work? I don't know. In some cases, yes, but I'm not sure that if in the next like 5 years, I'm not sure if it'll be huge for all situations. Because it's in my experience in meetings with more than like a couple people, there's distinctly a number of people who are not paying attention to the meeting. They're actually doing something else on their computer, or if they're working from home, they might be doing something else in their home. Therefore, they're going to want to skip out on that VR thing completely, because then they would be single tasking rather than multitasking.
Right.
So I think that Zoom allows for people to turn off their camera and then not pay attention.
Right.
But maybe one of the limitations of Zoom has been the idea of whiteboarding, sort of idea generation and writing down those ideas and collaborating that way. Maybe that might work in that case. I don't know. I'm not sure it's a killer app for VR.
Got it. Okay.
It might be, but I haven't seen evidence that it is.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying it's going to be Zoom itself. I feel like whatever communication technology that we're going to use that will be the next step from Zoom would be something with augmented reality, just because I don't know, even now talking to people, most people, I actually did a survey on LinkedIn, and I think there was like 500 people that responded, but there was, I think 90% of them or 95% of them said that they wanted to have the flexibility to come in the office and do like a hybrid work from home when they need to and come to the office. So I would think that, like technologies like Zoom or Teams, it's not going to go away, but you're still not, it's still the 2-dimensional TV screen type, thing. So that's why I was always wondering if augmented reality would play a role in the next step of that.
I think it's a good idea, but I'm not sure it's the lowest hanging fruit. I think there's a lot of things that AR and VR are good for. One that's really interesting, and I think has a really good chance of success, is the virtual desktop. So right now,
what is that?
Virtual desktop. Okay, so right now I'm sitting at a desk with a keyboard, mouse, and then 2 large screens.
Okay.
The screens are somewhat expensive. And sometimes I would like to have another 3rd screen, or I'd like to have some information on my desk that I'm trying to track while I'm working. Maybe if I had a high res, Retina display VR device, I could put it on and I would see basically as big of a screen as I wanted to. And I could arrange my windows on it, and maybe it could track my keyboard and mouse. So basically, and maybe my room could be a mess, but when I put on the VR headset, I'm in a Zen space, and I have basically a perfect computer setup. Maybe I have a 50-inch perfect high-res screen. So that, and it blocks out noise canceling built in. That would be very good, because no one would have to buy desktop computers anymore. You just put on your headset. And why does everyone have to see my screens, right? Only if I'm collaborating. So I think that it would be $500 instead of a much more complex computer setup. So I think that's very likely to happen, because it's cheaper, and it would be just as effective. I think as well, AR for shopping is a big one. I think that VR gaming has been fairly popular. VR for fitness has been incredibly popular. So I see those coming. Yeah, I think virtual desktop for working
I think
with
that virtual,
continues.
well, the virtual desktop, I never even thought about that. Like that's actually such a good idea because like right now I have in my living room like this big monitor, my laptop, the stand, the mic, like all these things, and it's actually kind of annoying and it is too cluttered. But I need it so that I can focus on what I need to focus on. But if that thing was virtual and cost less, I mean, yeah, that's unreal. I just can't even imagine that in my head. I mean, it just sounds like right out of a futuristic movie.
I don't think it's that far away. The key is right now these VR headsets are too heavy. Like I have the Oculus,
Mm-hmm.
the Oculus Quest 2. It's pretty good. Okay, it's a single device you put it on. It's heavy. It's also quite thick. Like it sticks out a couple inches from my face. Um, but if we can get, you know how there's these curved OLED phones now, like curved.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get that curved screen, that means the screen could more closely go around our face. Right now they're using flat screens, so they're pretty far out.
Yeah.
But if they can be curved and they can be retina, retina is a very important concept. Retina means that the pixels are so small you can't see them. Once we get retina displays in the VR devices, it's basically perfect quality. Right now, if you try the Quest 2, you can still see the pixels are pretty big. So like it sort of works, but it's pretty primitive. But once we get there, and I think that's only like 2 years away, I would love that type of workspace setup. And a lot of people in apartments, it'll make apartment living much more conducive to working. You just need like what, a 3 foot by 3 foot desk, and you're good to go. You have the ultimate setup.
That's so cool. I honestly, I think if I, because of my interest in this and your expertise in this, I could probably talk to you from now till 7 p.m. because I just want to know all these things. But fortunately, I don't want to make this video longer than it to get people's attention. But so I'm excited to see what's going on at ThreeKit right now with everything that you guys are doing. You know, if people want to learn more about augmented reality or even connect with you or follow you, whatever the case is, what's the best thing that they can do? What's the best?
3kit.com is the best way to find out about our offerings, our technology, and then also engage with us.
What did you say? Also what?
Also engage with us. Just like if you want to talk with someone about what you're doing and how we could possibly help. We work with a lot of companies. We've had 3 times growth for the last 3 years. So we're helping out a lot of people.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ben. I'm really looking forward to staying in touch with you and following ThreeKit and what's going on. And Nancy's been great. So her and I talk all the time. So she keeps me in the loop too. So, but I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Benny. This was a lot of fun. And it's a very exciting time in this industry.